We will now hear from a member of our faculty selected by the graduating class to address all of us today, Professor Sherry Colb. Professor Colb joined the Cornell Law School faculty in 2008. She earned her bachelor's degree summa cum laude from Columbia, where she was also valedictorian, and a JD magna cum laude from Harvard Law School. Prior to joining Cornell Law School, Professor Colb clerked for Judge Wilfred Feinberg of the United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit and for Justice Harry Blackmun of the United States Supreme Court. She was then a member of the Rutgers University School of Law faculty in Newark. Professor Colb's research and teaching interests center on issues of constitutional criminal procedure, especially the Fourth Amendment, animal rights, sexual equality, and evidence. Her scholarship has appeared in several leading law reviews. She recently published a book about animal rights, Mind If I Order a Cheeseburger, and Other Questions People Ask Vegans, and has also written a book about the modern challenges of sex equality, When Sex Counts, Making Babies and Making Law. She composes a bi-weekly column on Justia's Verdict, as well as regular posts on the blog Dorf on Law. She's currently working on a fascinating book with Michael Dorf on animal rights and abortion. Please join me in welcoming Professor Sherry Colb.
Well, first things first, congratulations, class of 2015. Today, I want to talk to you about mind reading. We do a lot of mind reading in the law as well as in life. Now, you might be wondering, what the heck is she talking about? Well, think about it. In criminal law, we often have to prove that the defendant intended the consequences of his actions on his victim. But usually, we don't have the luxury of a defendant who announces as he kills his victim, I hereby intend to end the life of my victim with malice aforethought. As a result, we have to look at other things. So what do? We have a witness, perhaps, who saw the defendant purchasing weapons and ammunition 3 weeks before the crime. Maybe we have another witness who saw the defendant with binoculars staring into the home of his victim night after night, right before the homicide took place. And through these actions, we can read his mind, and we can do it rather effectively to determine what he was thinking. We also do mind reading in everyday life. Some mundane examples. So let's say I give my daughter a bowl of salad, a mistake to begin with, and then she returns the bowl to me at the end of the meal, and it is filled with tomatoes. Not one tomato has been touched. I can read her mind and infer that she does not like tomatoes, which in fact she does not. And she doesn't even need to tell me so, although needless to say she does. So we read minds in everyday life in that way, in that important way. We also have mind reading recommended by the Bible in suggesting how we figure out whether people are guilty or innocent. Those of you who've taken my class in criminal procedure are going to be familiar with this quote from Proverbs 28:1, "The wicked flee when no man pursueth." Now, this quote comes up in the context of a case that we study in criminal procedure called California against Hodari D. The issue in this case is whether people have the right not to be chased by the police when police have no reason to chase them. In other words, does the Fourth Amendment right against unreasonable seizures protect against being chased for absolutely no reason at all? Spoiler alert, no. The Supreme Court held, in an opinion by Justice Scalia, that there is no Fourth Amendment right not to be chased when police have no reason at all to chase you. But he had a footnote, Justice Scalia, and this is where the Proverbs quote comes in, where he took issue with one of the premises of the case. The premise of the case, or one premise, was that the police had no good reason to chase Hodari. right? And that's where this question arises of whether there's a right not to be chased for no reason. But Justice Scalia said California should not have conceded that point. California conceded the point, so it wasn't before the court. But Justice Scalia thought, well, let's talk about it anyway. So in this footnote, he says, actually, Hodari was behaving in a way that made it perfectly appropriate for the police to chase him. He was running away from the police. He was afraid of the police, and as the proverbial wisdom goes, get it, proverbial wisdom? The wicked flee when no man pursueth. So Justice Scalia and Proverbs here are suggesting some mind reading. Two layers of mind reading, to be sure. The first layer of mind reading is that you see someone running from the police, and you can read that mind to see fear. And that seems like a fair inference. But the second layer is the why. Why is this person scared? And the mind reading says this person is scared because he knows he's done something wrong, and that knowledge of his wickedness is what drives him to fear. Now, I think we know from recent history and the news that people can be afraid of the police without necessarily having wickedness. People like Michael Brown of Ferguson, Missouri, and Eric Garner of Staten Island, New York, and Walter Scott of North Charleston, South Carolina, and Freddie Gray of Baltimore, Maryland, and the names go on. There are many others. People can be afraid of the police because they are scared of deadly force, even if they have committed no wickedness at all. So I think Justice Scalia's and Proverbs' mind reading in this way can go very much wrong, can go awry. Now, there are well, before I say that, you as attorneys may have opportunities to confront some of the injustice that we're talking about here. You may be a prosecutor, and you can help make sure that the criminal justice system, at least on your watch and where you are in control, does not engage in unconstitutional misconduct. And you might be a civil rights attorney and litigate against people who violate the constitutional rights of others as well. So hopefully someday it'll be true that when somebody flees the police, we can read that person's mind to say, you've done something wrong. But unfortunately, we are not yet at that stage. Now, as I started to say before, there are areas where we read minds and things can go wrong, but you don't have necessarily fatal results. It's not quite as dramatic as the police use of deadly force. And what I'm talking about here is that we read our own minds. Now, once again, you're thinking, why would we need to read our own minds? We have direct access to our feelings and our thoughts, don't we? We don't need to read our minds through our behavior. But research suggests that maybe we don't have as good access to our thoughts and feelings as we imagine that we do. So to give you some mundane examples, you might go to the store and buy yourself a suit. And you think, I love this suit. This is a wonderful suit. And then a year goes by, and you have not once worn the suit. And so you can read your mind through your behavior to say, I guess I didn't really like the suit as much as I thought. Or, for example, to give an example from my own life, it may be December 31st, and you decide you're going to join a gym. And you join the gym, and you think, I'm going to go to this gym a lot. So even though it costs a little more than I'd like, it's worth it, because I'm going to go. And then a year goes by, and you haven't gone a lot. You did go that time when they had that movie that you'd missed in the theaters, and you thought it'd be fun to see a movie, and they had donuts. But that was it. Now, these mistaken mind readings or these initial attempts at mind readings that went wrong are not tragic, right? So you don't wear the suit and you don't go to the gym. Big deal. But there are other times when it can be more serious and even devastating. And this is where we come back to that quote, "The wicked flee when no man pursueth," which, by the way, I should tell you is not my favorite quote in the Bible. My favorite quote in the Bible is Genesis 1:29, where God tells Adam and Eve to consume a vegan diet. But I digress. So, when can self-mind reading go wrong? Well, sometimes law students feel nervous and anxious in the classroom. I don't mean at Cornell, but like at other law schools. And they feel anxiety in the classroom and they feel fear, so they don't raise their hands. And Justice Scalia might say, "The wicked flee the spotlight when no professor pursueth," or something like that. Always important to add the S at the end. And the way this works, I would say, is that there's an internal, what I will call Officer Scalia, just to kind of conflate police officer and Justice Scalia, and maybe Proverbs, but there's no neat way to incorporate that. So Officer Scalia says, "You're afraid, you're not raising your hand. You have nothing to contribute." And he might also say, you know, you don't really have anything to say that everyone else didn't already think of, or what you're going to say is wrong. Now, of course, there may be something else going on altogether, which is perhaps you just don't feel like talking. So that's a possibility. Another possibility is that you didn't do the reading. Now, that doesn't make you wicked, to be sure, but it does make you guilty of not doing the reading. So I'm going to put that to one side. But for many people, you've done the reading, you understood it, you're ready, and you have something to say, but then you don't raise your hand. And this happens day after day. And there's little Officer Scalia in your head saying you are scared, you have good reason to be. Because when you're scared, there must be a good reason. It's because you're not good enough, because you don't have what it takes. And I'm here to tell you to disregard that nonsense. Okay, don't listen to that. And that kind of anxiety, unfortunately, can last beyond law school. So our profession, it's a very honored profession, but it has a high rate of anxiety compared to some other occupations. This is not meant to bum you out on your graduation day. But if you are feeling afraid, it means that you are not alone. But it is important that you not mistake that fear as evidence of truth, because it is not. And we are here, your family, your friends, your faculty, the staff here, and the people who are here in spirit because they couldn't make it today, but they so much wanted to be here. And we are all here to tell you not to listen to Officer Scalia, that you are qualified to be here. You are qualified to do your jobs, even if it'll sometimes be challenging, it'll sometimes be exhausting, and sometimes you'll just say, what am I doing? You are qualified, you have the skills, you are competent. And so we welcome you into a profession that you are eminently qualified to be confident that you have the skills to perform. Congratulations, class of 2015.